have been really involved with music pretty much your whole lives.
How did you know that?
Research. What kind of bands and stuff were you involved with before Joan?
So I've been writing since like my senior year of high school. My parents got me a little Fender acoustic that had a big crack in the back of it. It was a B stock refurb. That's what I like started doing, and then I called it the running back. I don't know why.
That's the name you named the guitar?
I named my first band, the
your
running back.
band.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Me and the running back, just busking the
Co-writing.
streets. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was called the running back, and it was just me. And then I always wanted it to be bigger. Like every song I wrote, I was like, it can't just be me and an acoustic. So then I had friends that jumped on board, and that band took various forms. And then after that was after college, moved to Nashville to pursue that band. And then after that, I was in a band called, kind of Deering too, it was like a side project called Canopy Climbers. And it was just like an electronic, you guys know who the Postal Service is? Remember that? It's kind of inspired by that. We would do everything online, like back and forth over the internet. And then that led up to Joan, actually. That's how me and Steven met, was a band that he was in, which I will let him tell you about. And my band played some shows together and mutual friends and stuff like that. So
I was in I started playing in a band in junior high with my brother. It was called TRB. It was
not the running back.
TRB.
Yeah, that's true. TRB.
That's quite a connection.
It is.
The running back TRB.
Before we even knew each other.
Yep.
And it was like really heavy music, but we were also like 13 years old, so it was like really high pitched screaming, and it was
13-year-olds are angst. You got that.
Yeah.
Angst.
We were all very very cool. And then after that was like till my like sophomore year of high school or junior year of high school, and then during college I was in another band called Brothers and Company, and it was like sort of indie pop rock type stuff. And but yeah, that's how we met. We were playing. He was in Canopy Climbers and I was in Brothers and Company, and we were playing around Little Rock, different shows and stuff, and kind of met through that. Because there's not a huge scene in Little Rock, so it was like
bound to meet.
Yeah, that we ended up playing a bunch of shows together because there was only like 4 bands total in Little Rock. So
Steven actually, to elaborate, toward the end of Canopy Climbers, like being my full thing, he started being my booking agent because he was getting like all these gigs regionally, like Texas and Oklahoma, like all these places that we weren't playing. I was like, dude, you got to help me get those shows. How are you doing this? And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I was going to pay him like a normal booking fee, and we ended up not doing it because we started Joan. But yeah.
So was it like through those conversations that you're like, okay, now we're going to start writing together?
I think so. I mean, basically what happened was, I think both bands, they had just graduated college and were like trying to figure out real world, like what's next. Do we want to pursue this? And some of the band members were getting into, like adult real life jobs that weren't music. So it's like trying to balance that. My band, the other 2 members had like full-time jobs and kind of were battling with like, we want to do this, but we can't just like quit everything to do this. And so me and Steven were kind of in both scenarios, were the 2 that were like, this is what we feel like we're supposed to do and what we were kind of, it sounds cheesy, but kind of like put here to do. And so we were like, let's just get together and write and see what happens. And we wrote our very first single, Take Me On, literally the first day we wrote together. So it was like, okay, this is something bigger, So
yeah. So did you guys have any other jobs?
No, not really. No, it's pretty much been music since we left school. So.
And it sounds like you had an immediate writing connection. What do you think makes you guys work so well together?
I would say that we both have strengths in 2 different areas, like way more than the other person, but at the same time we have a lot of knowledge in those areas as well. So it's like where I'll have a melodic idea or a track idea for a song, Steven is already like, his brain's churning on where to take the storyline, and I'm like, my brain does not work that way very well. And so a lot of times we kind of like are really good at staying in each other's lanes and then also veering over when needed. Like if I need help on a melody, he's jumping in and helping on the melody. If there's a lyric we're stuck on, I'm trying to think of the lyric. Like, so, but we largely kind of like have our roles that we feel really comfortable in, and we just like shoot for the stars on every song.
So
I would say, right?
What roles would those be for each of you?
Well, what it sort of naturally ended up being, like we'll start out with like a voice memo, and then we'll just text about it. I mean, we literally write together every day we're home, and we treat it basically as a job, 9-to-5 job type thing. But yeah, it'll start as like a voice memo. Those will like sort of, compile together, and then we have like a little list of what we're really stoked on, just as far as like vibe or ideas or hooks or whatever goes. And then we'll be in the studio together. Alan will be working on sounds, and like we'll get structure and stuff figured out, and he'll get the production down, and I'll usually end up writing lyrics and stuff while and so we'll do melody like, sort of together on that, and then before you know it, the song's like done. But I think what we connected well on at the beginning, and what like ended up being really good for us is I don't know what to call it, maybe like visual writing or something, but like whenever we started, we kind of started doing with the idea of doing licensing or film and TV music. So there was a specific Alan says we're a lot that we're kind of searching for a feeling in a song, like what sort of feeling did you get growing up listening to music or whatever. But like we whenever we started, we were trying to get into like the movie scene, or like what specific scene in the movie does this song feel like. And so since we do the visuals ourselves and we do all the writing ourselves, it connected immediately, I think, because it was like, this is what we're going for. This is the specific scene in the movie or a specific sound or whatever. So
are you you started, as you mentioned, with wanting to write for film. Is film something that influences you guys?
Sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
What kind of films and stuff? Well,
like for Portra, for instance, there were a couple of key scenes in like different John Hughes movies, and I grew up like loving any John Cusack movie that he was in. There was just like some weird like connection I felt with that style of film, and some of that was like 80s, some of it was 90s, whatever. But I think we would take a scene like where he's holding the boombox over his head to like woo the girl through the window with like her favorite song, and go like, okay, why does that make me get goosebumps? Why does that make my heart flutter faster when I watch that? And how can we write a song that in turn does the same thing? So I would say there were a couple of movies and a couple of just even scenes, or like he said, like I've mentioned a lot before, like feelings that we get when we see those things. So it's like the visual and the audio, or I guess that's how you say it. The visual and the music were always like intertwined for us from the very beginning, and that goes back to even the first day he was throwing out band name ideas, and he was like, I think Joan's really strong, and showed me like just a mock-up design of just this like a italicized small font or just lowercase font, and I was like, that's it. I mean, it was like exactly what we envisioned the band to be from the first day. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what kind of you have really like distinct visual aspects to your music. What kind of conversations do you have around the design?
Oh gosh,
I'll give that mic to the designer.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think that's the first time we gotten that question.
I guess it's like both of our personal tastes as far as design and visuals go, kind of combined. But overall, I think from the beginning to us, there was a specific like personality to the music we were writing. And I think we're just trying, like with the visuals, we're just trying to stay true to that. And trying to find, I guess, inspiration from the music we're writing, if that makes sense. I don't know, it sounds kind of like duh, but it's, it's like, I don't know, it just, the main goal for us is for the music that you listen to and the visuals that you see to make sense hand in hand, and like really work together and be consistent. And stand out from everything else. I think that's kind of the main goal with it. If that makes sense.
No,
that was kind of a terrible answer to that question.
No, it was
sorry.
good. It was, the bright, you can see it in the visuals.
You have a hair on your knees. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Keep that on the record.
Yeah. So, Alan, you went to school for drums, and it was like the first instrument you picked up.
Yeah.
But Steven, you are the drummer. So, was there like a conversation about who's gonna be the drummer?
Whenever we first started this thing, Alan really fought to be the drummer, and
We held an audition at his parents' house, and we were like, "All right, family, let's duke this out." No, it was easy because though I did go to school for drum, like I've been playing drums since I was 11.
Yeah.
Went to college for like all through college, did percussion, marimba, all the boring aspects of percussion too, or at least boring to me. But for some reason in high school, getting that first guitar and like feeling what it felt to write a song and be like, okay, this is, I don't know, it was like a new feeling, a new inspiration for me. And honest to goodness, that day I remember being in my room and being like, I'm as excited right now as I feel when I'm behind a kit, and they became kind of equal to me. So I've never really viewed it as like I'm missing anything. So it was just a natural, like Steven's really great at drums, and we needed a singer and and the keyboard and guitar and stuff like that. So it's just like I love that role as equally. So we just kind of landed in those roles together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Do you think having two drummers talented drummers in a band does it affect the way you write at all?
I mean, I would say we both are thinking about the groove more than like just the drummer thinking about, we're both trying to write very rhythmically, and
we definitely don't like write a song on an acoustic guitar and then later like try to figure out parts. It's very much like it either starts with a specific sound or it starts with a groove, and it all kind of works together. Or we're like, the drums could be this, and we're like very on the same page with that. It's like the guitar could be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it definitely comes into writing.
But there are also times where like I'll be sitting at my computer, he's thinking through storyline, and I'm just trying to find sounds, and I like try a beat out, and then he like stops writing lyrics and comes over and tries a different kick pattern. Like it's very collaborative. Yeah. Like he's like, I don't know let me try this, and then we end up landing on something we love together. So it's actually probably really helpful that we're both
another
drummers.
thing to connect over.
Yeah.
And I think it helps that we know what we can do live while we're writing.
Yep.
Where like maybe some producers might write a drum beat that's absolutely impossible to do live. But for us, everything we write on every instrument we can do live, which is really cool, I think.
Yeah. Alan, you mentioned a few times about Steven doing like storylines. That's in terms of lyrics? Like what kind of stories do you like to explore in your lyrics? Like where do those come from?
I don't know. I keep a notes, like a list of concepts or like just story starts on my phone, and I think it just starts there. Like literally I wrote like 5 down today just while we were driving. I don't know, it's just like while I'm listening to a song, or like while I'm listening to a podcast that is a comedian talking, different ideas will pop up, and I think we kind of just start from those sort of concepts.
And some of it, I thought I pushed the power button, some of it is personal, some of it's fictional. I mean, it kind of depends. Like if he has a sick concept, like, oh, what's interesting is sometimes you start with a concept that doesn't seem related to yourself at all, but then you start writing it and you're like, oh, I've like lived through this in some, like there's a girl I dated in high school that, oh, we went through that, or me and my wife have dealt with that in the last year, whatever it is. Like it can be really interesting. It's really interesting when you write sad songs but you're not in a sad place. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you start to kind of channel like, okay, how would someone else feel in this moment? And I love that. Like I like concept writing because I think it helps empathize with other people. It helps you kind of like channel other people's emotions and what, walking in someone else's shoes might feel like, or it's something that you felt 10 years ago, or something. So
and I think it makes, it keeps us in check because it makes sure that the song is relatable. Like if we're starting out with a concept that we don't necessarily like right off the bat, we're like, this isn't really like super personal, and then the song's done and you're listening back to the lyrics and you're like, wow, I feel like I've been, it's like,
yes.
I do relate to this song that I didn't necessarily write from a super personal level, but all of a sudden it became a personal song to me because I relate to it in that way.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing, and like something unique for us because a lot of times we'll start with a concept that seems pretty abstract or not really personal, and then it ends up being personal, which is cool.
Yeah, it's good indication that other people will probably connect to it too.
Yeah.
You guys have talked about how much you love pop music.
Mm-hmm.
I love that passion that you have, and you write great pop music.
Thanks.
What's a pop song that you would consider a perfect pop song? If you had to pick a few.
I have been listening to Halsey's Graveyard, her newest. Well, she released a new single today, but the one this last week, I've listened to that song 100 times in the last 3 days. Now, it's a new one, but I think it's a darn near perfect pop song. It's produced by a guy named, I think it's Louis Bell, and he does like Post Malone and a bunch of killer pop stuff now. And I don't know, man. It's just like every section of the song, I'm like, this can't get better, and it gets better, and then it gets better. You know, it's just like perfect from start to finish. So yeah. And I think for do you have one before I keep going? I'll nerd out.
Oh no, I that's what I love to hear. I love to hear people nerd out.
I'm trying to think of what I'm really loving right now. Post Malone's whole record is so good, and the melodies are insane. I don't know why, but I immediately thought of New Rules by Dua Lipa. I don't really listen to it a ton anymore, but I wore that song out because I thought it was just so well done. Yeah. And she's just a powerhouse. So
we just like an add-on to this, we are like the song is important, but even more important than the song is like who was behind it for us. Like we're since Spotify added song credits, we're like every new song we're like it's almost like a game. We can try to guess who did it, just based on
I love song credits.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like to go, I bet it's Ian McIntosh or McIntosh, or his name is from New Rules. He did that song. Like those drums sound really similar. Things like that.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, if you study it like anything else, like you can get the game right. But yeah, we nerd out on personnel behind it and who mixed it, and man, how did that hi-hat sound that way, and why did they have it panned all the way to the left? We study this stuff.
Yeah.
Just so we can take it and apply it to our stuff, as best as we can. I mean, you're only as good as your skill set, so like listening to that stuff enhances your skill set, I think. So
do you have any producers or behind the scenes people that like you like pick out, and like do you have like a favorite?
Yeah, I mean, those two that I just named are two of my main favorites lately, Louis Bell and Ian McIntosh. And then actually a newer guy that we're actually going to be working with really soon, a guy named Andy Seltzer. He's a good, but do you know his name?
He did
Valley. Yeah. That's how we actually heard about him. Yeah. We're buds with them, and he's done Maggie Rogers, and he's just we've had like 4 or 5 phone combos now, just getting ready to lead up to recording, and he's a really, really sweet guy, and seems to get our vision, and so he's another like, he's newer on the scene, but he's already absolutely slaying it at a young age. So yeah.
Is that like normal to have like that many conversations with a producer? Are you like very picky?
I would say not. Like
I think it's usually much more professional. Not professional, but like very.
Andy is not professional.
No. Well, even with us, we've worked with a couple producers before, and it like once you get into the studio, it's like you're buds. But before that, no, it's usually very business-like. Yeah. But with Andy, it's been not that at all. It's been awesome.
You may have like a phone call. I can think of 2 producers we worked with in the past that it was like an introductory phone call, which was great, and just like a get to know each other kind of thing, like break the ice, and then some emails, and then you may, if you're working remote, like we've worked with a guy overseas, and it was like we're not going to see him for months, so we have to just send sessions, and it was personal once you get to know them. But Andy has been definitely like a cut above the rest in terms of like the day I reached out and we connected over a DM on Instagram, and just like he knew Joan was a big fan. We were like, we're a big fan. We were just like gushing over each other. It was pretty corny. And we just it initiated an initial phone call that literally lasted, I think it was like 55 minutes. Wow. And I'm just like pacing around my house, and I'm just like, we're talking music and nerding out together, and where we might could take this in the future. And that was 5 phone calls later, and we're working with him next month. So like, I don't know, it's just like a really, it's different with him. He's a lot more personal. So
any sneak peeks you can give me? Like, what's the vision? What are you guys going to be doing?
I don't know how to.
Yeah, what's next? What's coming up?
So basically we sent him 15 or 20 ideas. Some of them are like full songs, some of them are versing. We kind of we normally get a verse and a chorus, and then we sit on it. So like we get it out of our brain, how we feel it is, and then we just sit on it and send it to our manager and send it to just friends that we trust and Andy and guys like that. And then we sent him about 15 or so, and then he kind of like, in a good way, critically like went through them. I gave him no notes. We were just like, here's the Dropbox folder, blank slate, tell us what you think. And then he kind of gave us his favorites. And so what we'll probably do next is do some remote work back and forth as we just kind of build on some of these foundations, and then we get in the studio for 4 or 5 days in Little Rock. He's flying into Little Rock, and then we just get to work in the studio for hours upon hours till we get something going.
Yeah, so expect new music.
Oh yeah,
coming up.
always.
We'll have new music very very soon, and also soon. And hopefully a lot more consistent going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm really excited to hear what comes out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Us too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.